Carly, and today with me is a special guest who is going to talk to us about something fun that happened recently, which was that time that Tsukigumi did Elisabeth, but the cast was different. So I will let her introduce herself.
Hello, thank you. I go by violetposies on Twitter, and I'm a Tsukigumi fan, and I've been around for like 10 years, and I love them a lot, and I saw the Understudies thing. Yes.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast with me, because I think this is very interesting. I actually don't really know about it at all, so I'm also very excited to hear about it. So yeah, today we're going to talk about that specific Elisabeth happening, and also Understudies in general a little bit. But first we're going to talk about our happy things as usual. So what is your happy thing that has happened in Takarazuka recently?
So today I watched the Hoshigumi Bao debutante, and I had no idea what was happening the entire time. I was very confused, but everybody looked great, and specifically Seida Hitomi's wig was so beautiful, and that's my happy thing.
Excellent. That is one of those shows that I have looked at and just like, it could be about literally anything.
It is about literally anything.
I couldn't tell you a single thing about it.
Whatever you could guess is not what it is, I swear.
Okay, good to know. Awesome. I heard it's funnier than it looks. That's the only thing I know about it.
It's so weird and funny, and I hope you can see it one day. And I hope you understand it better than me.
The last time I saw a Masatsuka Sensei Bao was partial time travel, and that also didn't make a heck of a lot of sense. So I guess it's a theme. Okay, awesome. Anyway, my happy thing is I just got back from Greece, which was, I guess, mostly about vacation, but it was also about hanging out with one of my Takarazuka friends, and we finally both like got over our year-long sadness and watched Chigi and Miyu's Taidan on DVD or whatever for the first time since it happened. So I guess that's not a happy thing, but I'm happy that I was with a friend for that.
That is a happy thing, you
know? And that
that's
we like
people together.
Yeah, it was fun. Okay, so Understudies. It's not something that happens very frequently in Takarazuka, but they do have understudies, and it's not just like whoever has the Shinjin Koen role is gonna step in and do it.
Because that would make sense.
That would make sense. But no, it's actually a whole terrifying process that I imagine is very difficult for the actresses. And not, I guess, well, with the Elisabeth example, sometimes the person who has a certain role in the Shinjin Koen is the one who ends up stepping in, depending on how, I guess, highly ranked that person is. But for the most part, especially the upperclassmen learn 2 roles as far as I know. And then if somebody is injured or if somebody is out sick, that person who is literally the understudy and normally plays a totally different role will step in. And so I don't have a heck of a lot of experience with seeing understudies. I am not in Japan now, but I obviously saw the news about this Elisabeth one, and then I was in Japan during Rurouni Kenshin uh 2.5 years ago, when everyone in Yukigumi was sick. I think like 12 people were out sick total.
Literally everybody. Literally
It was
everybody.
horrible. And for the most part, it was younger people, and they just kind of shifted around background roles. But Ayanagi Sho was out, and Mana Haruto took her place. So that's a good example, I think, of of like the type of person who does the who understudies for fairly highly ranked people. But then if you get up to like the top 3,
Yeah.
it seems like they just learn each other's roles so that
Yeah.
if something happens to one of them, they just move up and the show is still as properly ranked as possible. I can't think of a situation that I personally know of where that's happened other than now. Like, although I guess what was the show with Cocktail? When do you know what I'm talking about? When
No.
Takumi Hibiki got sick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
So Takumi Hibiki was the top star of Hanagumi in the very early 2000s, very briefly, because right when she became top star, she was diagnosed with some kind of like spinal condition or muscular condition. It was like a very, very, very bad total
Something
body
really
thing.
terrible, wasn't it?
Yeah. And she actually ended up having to retire after her first show because of it. But I guess it was I guess it all came about like just a little bit into the show having started, because they just moved everybody up. Like Haruno Sumire became the top star of that show, basically, I guess, other than a few scenes that she did. But that was before my time. I've only seen her last show of Cocktail, which is very sad. But yeah, other than that, like this past Elisabeth is the first time I've seen like someone that highly ranked go out sick. And so what happened, for anybody who doesn't know, is Mia Rurika was absent for a few days. They did not say why, but I don't know, people who saw the surrounding shows said her voice was not sounding great. So I'm guessing she just must have been sick or something.
Yeah.
And Sugishiro Kanato moved up and played Franz, and Kazuma Yuno played Lucchini, and she was also Lucchini in the Shinjin Hoen. So that,
right?
Yeah, so this is kind of cool because we have an example of one of each. So she stepped up from the Shinko and then played Lucchini in the real performance, and then Tsukishiro Kanato, who probably had a hard enough time learning Lucchini, I guess also had to learn Franz and then play it for real. So that must have been very stressful. Okay, and you saw all of it.
I did. I sure did.
The real one and the Switch cast and the Shinjin Koen.
I sure did.
And that's awesome. So, first, I guess let's go person by person. Tell us a little bit about how Mia played Franz, and then tell us a little bit about how Reiko played Franz.
So, I feel like my Franz-related feelings are quite complicated because, generally speaking, I don't really care for Franz as a character. Like, I can understand why people might like him, but it takes a really specific, I don't know, I guess it takes a really specific person or a really specific style of playing him to make me like him.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I find that sometimes I like the characterization of young Franz, but then I really don't care for older Franz. And that's kind of how I feel about Miyaduri's Franz. Like, I love her, like, so intensely. And I really, really enjoy her young Franz, but I really don't care so much for her older Franz. and I can't even really put my finger on why. I think it's not to do with her, it's to do with just the character.
Yeah.
But sort of like before the cast was even announced, like way back in January or February, whenever the announcement was, even though I knew that probably Reiko would be Lucchini, I really, really wanted to see Reiko's Franz. So in a horrible way, like, this was great for me. But but yeah, like, Miyudori, I feel like, plays Franz quite, I don't know, quite sort of under Sophie's thumb.
Yeah.
But I found her to be slightly colder than Reiko's Franz in some way. I'm not really sure how to express it, but...
No, that makes total sense. And I think that's like, through all the Elisabeths I've watched, that's kind of like a theme. Like, how under Sophie's thumb each person is like very particular to each person who's played Franz. So I totally get that.
And I don't know whether it's because I'm sort of projecting my intense feelings of love for the 95ths onto the whole situation, but I found Reiko's Franz to have a sort of like more sympathy for Elisabeth and to be warmer and more caring towards her. That could just be because I was loving Reiko and Chappie singing together, but I found Reiko's Franz to be more sort of I don't know, a bit warmer, or a bit more, maybe a bit more aware of how his actions were affecting Elisabeth, perhaps. Yeah, but
that makes sense. Yeah, that's to go back to your first point, I always like how they age Franz in the Takarazuka version is so kind of like, it seems really difficult to me. Like, it's basically just like, here's a gradually increasing beard. And
right. And I don't like the facial hair. I don't like the sideburns.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's like very few people have like also acted it really, I don't want to say well, like, they all do like a fine job of it, but like, I don't know, Michan's the only one I've seen who I felt like she could have aged Franz without the beard. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's just a really tough thing to do. So like, I totally get why like the young and old is so different. Since you mentioned it for Mia, how did Reiko do with that?
Okay, well, I mean, so she didn't have an old person Franz wig, right?
Oh, so yeah, because she wasn't supposed to do it.
So it was like, she didn't have like Franz hair full stop, right? So it was the first time I've ever seen dark-haired Franz, which I was super into.
I'm just gonna like jump in for a quick second and say that, like, again, for people who don't know, the actresses do their own like wigs and accessories. It's not something that comes from the company, so they didn't have like another Franz wig lying around for Reiko. Like, it would have been Mia's responsibility to do her wigs and stuff, and it's not necessarily like they have the same size head. So okay, go ahead.
Well, I think that for Franz they just used their own hair. I'm not sure if there's actually any. I don't think there's any wigs involved for Franz, but
are there like they do additions or something for the aging part, don't they?
Right. There's that, but obviously, like, Mia's hair is blonde for Franz, but Reiko's hair is brown for Lucchini. So but the brown hair looked so good on young Franz. But then she didn't have any old Franz wig pieces or whatever. So there's that scene, you know, like one of those time-passing scenes when Franz is younger and then he leaves the stage and then he comes back again and like his hair is grayer, right? And he's got like more of a mustache or whatever. And so Reiko had gone off stage with like this beautiful lustrous brown hair. And then she came back on with just these 3, I don't know, or like wig strips, like what are they called? Wefts? Are they called wefts?
Yeah, they like clip in.
Right, exactly. With 3 clip-in grey wefts, like one on each side and then one on the top. And they just looked so out of place and hilarious. But, you know, she did a really good job despite her sort of weft problems. But... That was honestly though, that was with her Franz. That was the only moment that I was reminded that she wasn't supposed to be playing Franz.
Oh wow. This is out of pure curiosity, but did they still also give her like the same beard as usual?
I believe so. Like Franz's beard is not one of the things I'm necessarily looking most at, but yeah, she in the ships in the night scene, when she's the most beardy, I feel like if it wasn't Miyaruri's like old man hair and beard, if it wasn't the same one, it was at least one that was extremely similar.
That must have looked interesting.
Yes.
With the
Yes.
the gray wefts.
Yeah, the wefts.
I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about that. That's so weird.
Right? And just because it wasn't the right shade at all to fit in with her hair, it just looked so out of place, but I don't know.
Okay. Do you have any other comments on Franz? Because that like segued in my head to my next question, which is not Franz related.
About Reiko Franz. Her and Chappie, their harmonies were beautiful. They sounded heavenly. Like, I always cry in that duet, like, both times. And they just sounded beautiful together. And I mean, again, it's probably just me projecting my intense 95th love onto the stage, but I felt like you could really feel the care that they had for each other.
Yeah.
I could really feel like the warmth from Franz and also his sadness at knowing that he wasn't making Elisabeth happy, and sort of like the desire to protect her. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, and they sounded really good together. And it was great.
Not that often. It's probably the only time that classmates have ever played Franz and Elisabeth. So yeah. I mean, it's probably real. Like, the feelings that they have toward each other. I'm sure that's coming from something, and not just Oh, that's so cool. So your discussion of like weird hair wefts just made me think of like, at least like in the promotional images, Kazuma Yuno was sort of blonde, not blonde, but like she lightened her hair because her regular role, well, she was in the Switch cast, but like she was one of the actresses playing Rudolph in addition to Akatsuki Chise, but she was Lukini in the Shinjin Koen. Yeah. So my brain just went to like, hey, I wonder if her hair gets dyed back and forth, which is not important at all. But so then
that's a point, that's a really good point because her hair was definitely dark for Shinko and for Lukini, unless I'm completely misremembering.
Yeah, they don't let Lukini go with light hair. So,
right? Like, is that a wig? Is she dyeing her hair back and forward?
She probably is dyeing her hair back and forward. They absolutely murder their hair. Like, I feel so bad for their hair.
And to be fair, she only had a very short run as Rudolph anyway.
Yeah.
And her run as Rudolph was truly cursed, because like first there was the typhoon, so one of her shows was cancelled, and then Miyururi was out in the middle of when she was supposed to be Rudolph, so then it was Ari, so like I think in the end she only got to play maybe like 9 or 10 shows as Rudolph.
Oh wow. I guess she'll get to do that a little more in Tokyo, unless some more disasters happen, which hopefully they won't.
I mean, seriously, let's not tempt fate. This run already has been cursed enough.
It's been so cursed.
We've had typhoons, sickness.
Oh boy. Oh, that's horrible. Okay, so she at least had the Shinjin Koen experience. Like, she has been rehearsing Lucchini, sort of. Like, I guess you could say that more if it was a one-act show, but for 2 acts, they condense the Shinjin Koen down to about an hour and a half, right? So she's really not rehearsing the entirety of the Lucchini part. And this, I've never seen an Elisabeth Shinko. I only know this from talking to friends about who saw the Soragumi one 2 years ago. But they like, they add narration for Lucchini, who like is supposed to be explaining what's going on in all of the scenes that they cut out when they do Elisabeth.
I mean, you say that, but I really feel like not so many scenes are cut.
Okay.
They don't do the big wedding scene, and I think they cut the scene, you know, Franz's dream at the end when he's arguing with Death. And some of the transition scenes become narration. But I still feel like there's more there than is not there, if you see what I mean. It's not,
so like his scenes are not so different.
It's not condensed into like a completely different role, like it's still sizably there and the same. Although having said that, like I stand by like my initial flailings on Twitter that she was genuinely like Hongkong quality. And the only time that it was noticeable that she was filling in for somebody was during one of those narration scenes that wasn't in the Shinko, when you know the one where like Elisabeth has her baby and then they won't let her see the baby, and then Franz is like, oh, your beauty's going to become your power or whatever. And Lucchini takes the mirror out of his pocket and holds it out to her. She went to get the mirror out of the wrong side pocket. So there was like a 2-second pause where she was sort of scrabbling to find the mirror, like this slight hesitation. But that was honestly the only moment in the whole thing.
That's
like aside from her looking visibly young.
Right, she does look young. Well, she is young.
She is young. She is young.
She's very young.
She's seriously very young.
Yeah.
But like it confuses me as well how she wound up being the understudy for Lucchini, because I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I really don't think it's common, or certainly I've never heard of the Shinko kid playing, like being that role's understudy.
Yeah, it must be rare. Like I can't think of a situation where somebody in the top 3 would have been replaced by their Shinko person, but like I guess it's just the way this particular Tsukigumi is. Like if I don't know if there was another understudy for Lucchini and they just made the call to do it this way because she happens to be like very, very pushed. Like she's extremely young, but they're pushing her extremely hard.
But only since recently though, really.
Yeah.
I kind of have a theory, like it's completely just speculation on my part, and I don't know how it would work out with like all of the other roles, but my theory is that perhaps Ari was the understudy for Lucchini, but because of the way it worked out, like with Miyururi being out as opposed to Reiko or whoever, they had to reshuffle it so that she could be Rudolph still. I don't know. That's a theory that I have. I can't see, as I say, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I really don't think it's common for the Shinko kid to be the understudy for that same role.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Right? And again, I haven't seen it, but from all I've heard, I don't think that's common.
Yeah. But no, she was great. She was so good. She was really good.
Tell us about Reiko's Zucchini and then how they were kind of different.
So,
everybody I talked to said that Reiko was like crazy good. So
yeah, she's curious. Fully going for it. She's really going for it.
Yeah.
I think that I can see the similarities in their characterizations. Like, if you stood them next to each other and said, like, okay, so Kazuma Yuno has learned her characterization from Reiko.
Yeah. And that makes sense because they work together.
Right,
when someone has a Shinjinko role, they work with the upperclassmen. From working
in the Shinko. Like, I can fully believe that. Like, without having watched it, I could fully believe that. Like, I can see their similarities. For me, the difference between them came then just in their age. Like, I find them, like Reiko, I felt like you could believe her madness, or however you could put it, is like, I could feel the sort of the strength in it and sort of the depth of it. She felt older, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Kazuma Yuno, I felt like she had that same kind of wildness about her, but her youth, like her relative youth, like gave it a different nuance.
Yeah.
In that way, I think I found Reiko darker. But I could definitely see the similarities between the two. They were definitely both going for a wild, slightly animalistic kind of portrayal, I thought.
Yeah, that again, across all the Elisabeths, I think like a big difference in Lucchini is how much of his actions are like politically motivated and how much are like, oh, this guy is just insane. And that varies a lot from actress to actress.
I feel when I watch them, I'm really not thinking about politics. Yeah, I think that yes, they were both wild. And yeah, Reiko's very dark, but
yeah, she looks it from like pictures and stuff. I can't wait to see it. Yeah, I wish that there was like even a news clip or something of the Switch cast. Like, I don't know. Right? I get the impression that there's so much like, oh, we have to pretend this is normal and nothing weird is happening. So they're like not going to make a big deal about it. But as a fan, I'm like, no, I want to see all of this. Can you please show it to me?
I know. I just, it sounds kind of mean to say that you wish that there was a recording or something of it, or like a digest or something of it, because it's happened because somebody is sick, right?
Yeah, which is terrible. But
right? But at the same time, it's something that fans want to see, right? Like,
Yeah.
during Grand Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So Grand Hotel was at the same time as Kenshin, right? Like, it was when everyone in Yukigumi was getting sick. And,
Yes.
like,
And
that
Grand
sickness,
Hotel was
right?
in, yes.
It was, yeah. And that whole, like, lurgy was going round. And the girl I support, she was the understudy for a really important role, like one of the main roles.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that as like a throwaway comment at the tea party. And just everyone, the whole audience just like audibly gasped. And in that moment, we were all thinking like we didn't want those people to get influenza. Like, we really didn't want that. But if they were to get influenza, we would have hopped on the Shinkansen in like the next minute.
Yeah, it would have been like the best, opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
But then it also makes me feel bad. I feel so bad for all of the people who couldn't see it. You know, like all of the Reiko fans who couldn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah, because obviously it's not a planned thing, and you know, your club doesn't magically have more tickets that day because
right.
Yeah.
It was such a miracle, honestly, that I saw it, because I had a ticket for that. So it was on the Saturday, right? And I had a ticket anyway for the 11 o'clock show that day. And my person had cancelled Irimachi, and my friend and I, this other fan and I, we were talking about it, and we were like, I wonder why. I wonder what's happening. I wonder what work she's doing. I guess it's just because of, like, the Thai dancer, she's busy or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then she sent me a message, like, half an hour later, like, look at the news! Oh my gosh! And we're like, Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
crazy.
Honestly just such a coincidence that I had a ticket for that day. And I have never felt so scared in my whole life to watch a show.
I mean, that also tells you how much, especially if someone's going to be sick, like, how much notice they get that, like, okay, you're playing a totally different role today.
Yeah.
Let's cancel Irimachi. That's enough time to rehearse, right?
Right.
Like...
I feel like they probably knew at least from the night before. I think they knew for sure. This is just my speculation. It's completely my speculation, because, so from what I understand, I didn't see the previous 2 days shows, but from the Thursday, apparently, like, Mia's voice was sounding quite painful. And then on the Friday, again, I don't know this for fact, I didn't watch it, but my friend who watched the show said that Mia said her lines but didn't sing her songs, and her singing voice was dubbed in by somebody else.
Yes, that happens too sometimes. I think that happened, I think So lost her voice during her last show at some point, and actually Reiko was off stage, who was still in Yukigumi at the time, was off stage singing her like her singing lines for her.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. The really funny thing about this time is that, again, I don't know for fact, but the speculation is that one of the kids playing the Black Angels was dubbing in her singing voice. So I just keep thinking about this kid, like, dancing around with this deathly expression on as a Black Angel, running off, being friends, then running back on and being a Black Angel. Like,
yeah,
that must have been the worst day ever, but...
Yeah. It's also, like, it's cool that they... I mean, I guess on one hand it's kind of weird, because when you get to know, you know, the actress you're a fan of, obviously you can pick out her voice, and then, like, it's just not her voice. But it shows their dedication to live singing, I guess, that they'd rather have a child out in the shadow box doing the singing than have, like, a recording with the actual actress lip syncing her own voice, which to me would make more sense. You would think,
right?
Yeah. But
it was so funny hearing my friend tell the story, because she's like, yeah, you know, just normal day, and then Miyadori opens her mouth and her actress's voice comes out.
So weird. Yeah, so they have like a little room off stage where, and every time there's like especially during a review, whenever there's like singing and people are just dancing and the person singing is not on the stage, they're always like in this little box that has a microphone, doing the live singing. So I guess they use that in these situations too, which is so weird to me. But cool. It's very cool. Oh, I forgot to ask you, just jumping back a little bit, since you also saw the Shinjin Koen, and Kazuma Yuno was Nukini in the Shinjin Koen, did you notice any particular like growth between that performance and then when she played Nukini for the actual performance? Or was she just brilliant in both?
She was just brilliant in both. Like, I wouldn't say that I noticed any growth, just because she's the kind of person who clearly is loving every single minute of being on stage.
Yeah.
Like, maybe she feels nervous, I don't know, but even if she does, she absolutely doesn't show it. Like, if she's feeling any nerves whatsoever, she hides them masterfully, because she oozes this confidence and just this absolute, like, feeling of knowing that she's exactly where she should be. I think that's what I loved about her understudy performance, was while I could feel certain people in different roles, I could feel like the fear radiating off of them. I felt like Kazuma Yuno had grasped this opportunity with both hands and was just loving every second of it. Like, it must have been such a really, really difficult and stressful time, but she sure made the best of it. She really made the best of it. Seemed like she was having a great time. And
good.
She did have the advantage of having rehearsed that same role a month in advance. So, I mean, that has to be noted,
more than a little bit. Yeah.
Like, she definitely had an advantage in that way, but she so confident. But that's what she's always been like ever since Hatsubutai. That's the kind of
I
aura
noticed
she's
the
given
first
off.
time I saw her, I think, was All for One. When she played the real
Georgie.
Yeah. And when I saw All for One, I did not know who she was. It was one of those times that, like, I saw somebody and then at intermission I'm like looking them up on TakaWiki. Who is that? She's good. Oh, she's 3? That's crazy.
Right. My first experience of her was, I'm sat there watching the Rockette, loving everyone being so cute, and then suddenly this, like, Ken 2 or whatever did this really inappropriate wink at my section of the audience. I'm thinking, that's not appropriate for right now. You are... Everyone's being so cute. It wasn't cute. It was... she has self-confidence, and it works for her.
She at least seems like she has a lot of confidence. She's a very strong performer. Well, it certainly looks like she's going places, so we'll see a lot more of her. She's gonna be in the top 3 in On the Town, so
how about that then?
Yeah, that was another crazy thing. I can't believe they're gonna try and jam all of Mia's fans and all of Reiko's fans into Bauhall, but
it's an interesting choice.
Yeah,
I know. I'm very sort of side-eyeing at that whole casting, but I think it's going to be really interesting. I mean, I'll tell you how it goes. So.
Thank you. I definitely want to know how it goes. I'm dying to know. Okay. Yeah. Any other comments on Elisabeth? That was great.
Also, in terms of understudies, Ayato Sena was playing Stefan.
Okay.
So she was filling in for Renko, who was filling in for Ari, right?
Yeah.
And
who was filling in for
right. And she okay, so you could feel the nerves radiating off of her, and she was so visibly scared. She looked like she was going to throw up any second. And at one point, you know, during like the coronation,
Yes.
where the revolutionaries are standing to the side talking to, what's his name, Zeps?
Yes.
And then they sort of join in and they do like that kicky dance.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of like kick their legs up, right?
Yeah.
She clearly had forgotten or just, you know, plain didn't know the choreography then, because she's been told like 12 hours ago that she has to play this role. But she is definitely one that everyone should watch because she's such a good actress. She's a really, really legit actress. She played Rudolph in the Shinko.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was more moved by her Rudolph than I was by the other two.
Oh, wow. What year is she?
She's 101st.
Oh, wow. So tiny. Very tiny.
Yeah. And she has had a place in my heart ever since, when was it? I think it was Golden Jazz, when she stood beside Somoseren in the rocket. And every single time I watched it, Somoseren's tail feathers would whip her in the face and like drag her lipstick all across her face. She's had a big place in my heart ever since that time. But she's such a good actress, and she was clearly so spooked, but she did her best. And I didn't see any of the subsequent performances, but like I'm sure once she got used to it, she was great because she's a really good actress.
So you saw it on the first day that this happened?
The first performance of the first day.
Oh, wow.
I saw.
So yeah, you got to see everybody at like maximum fear.
Maximum fear.
Maximum stress.
Yeah. And also, so she was filling in a Stefan, right? Which left her spot as a Black Angel open. And it was one of the girls who played a Black Angel in Shinko who filled in for her. And like, I'm 99% sure, she's not listed on the website, but I'm like 99% sure it was Ayachi Yurika, who I think is like 102nd or 103rd maybe. But she was great. She was loving it as well. She was loving being a Black Angel. Like, her faces were very good. She was really confident.
That's something that really, like, you can barely see the Black Angels on DVD. Like, that's something that's so much better if you have the opportunity to see Elisabeth live. Like, if you don't get to go to Japan and someone you like is cast as a Black Angel, it's like, oh, that's a death sentence. But it's really not. Like, if you see it live, the, like, mood that they create and the dancing is so beautiful. It's really, really, it's a lot.
I love the Black Angels. And and that reminds me as well, that so because Ayato Sena was filling in as Stefan, she is one of the Black Angels in the Hongkong who becomes one of the prostitutes in the Madame Wolf scene. But because obviously she wasn't there, it meant that Ran Naoki, who is a different Black Angel, had to fill in as like the prostitute Black Angel. And this is like, at this point, small change differences. Yeah. But I was so happy because Ran Naoki is another one of these people who is so talented. Like, she graduated, I think, top of the 101st, not the 101st, the hundredths. But she never gets to do anything. So I was really happy that she got like her small moment to shine as well. And it was so, I feel like this is where I really get into my feelings, because it's like one person was absent, but everything changed. Like, every single person was doing something different and like pulling their weight even more to make it work. And it just reminded me again, like, how professional they are and how well they work together and how hard they work. Yeah.
And that's something that is so much more difficult in Takarazuka probably than anywhere else in the world. Like, if someone on Broadway is out sick, their understudy who doesn't play somebody else goes and plays that role that day, and everybody else is the same, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not, this, just the sheer number of performances that they do, like the quickness of the turnover, like it's both. It's like a Grand Theater and a Tokyo Theater run are so long, and then like the turnover to the next thing is so quick, and rehearsals like a month to a month and a half. Like it's such a stressful pace anyway, even if everything goes right. And if you think about how on top of that, a bunch of people, especially the people who have the biggest roles in the first place, are also learning additional roles. And then they have the ability to just come on stage and do it like nothing's wrong except your hair color. Like,
right. Apart from these terrible wefts stuck to the side of your head.
It's just they're amazing. They're
really
absolutely amazing women.
They really are, right? I think my actress cursed it though, because she never talks about understudies, like to such a degree that when I commented, like I asked her some question about, oh, you said at the tea party that you were the understudy for this role in Grand Hotel, like what did you think about that? And she was like, was I? Oh yeah, I guess I was. Like the sort of the offhandedness that she speaks about it with makes me think that it's not something that's, again, this is me speculating, but it makes me think that it's not something that's really rehearsed or a great deal of thought put into, because it's like really nothing is expected to happen like that. But it was funny because like the week before or something, no, it can't have been, no, it was during rehearsal time. I was doing Iri and asking about like what that day was, and she was like, yeah, today is understudy rehearsals. And me and the other people there were like, oh, understudies, really? Huh. And she's like, yeah, you know, I don't know why we have it, but you know, hey.
It comes up so infrequently for at least like the main roles, and I think part of that is because they just push the actresses. Like you have to be on your deathbed if you are like if you're you know, in the top two like otokoyaku or musumeyaku roles to not get on stage that day, pretty much.
But then again, I think that being Star Trek is terrible in that sense because, as you say, you literally have to be on your deathbed in order to be given time off. But also the fact that Miyodori is so important to the company works in her favor, in the sense that they actually gave her time off to rest and recuperate, whereas I've heard fairly alarming things about background people who have been really, really ill, but not, I don't want to say like not allowed to take time off, but that haven't taken time off.
It goes, I mean, I guess it, this is also like a voice related thing, and also probably Koike sensei's fault. Like, I mean, he has a reputation for being kind of a hard ass, but I remember I was surprised. Well, I was first and foremost like extremely worried about Miyodorika because normally you have to be on your deathbed to get time off, and because Miyu lost her voice during Kenshin and they just pushed her through it. And I know like she's the top musumeyaku, but I saw Kenshin 7 times and she has a high note in her solo that she hit 0 of those 7 times. And then when I saw it in Tokyo once, they finally, and this was after the entire Takarazuka run of her struggling with her voice, they finally changed the key of that song. And it's like, well, if you were going to do that anyway, you could have maybe done it sooner. But yeah, like apparently she wasn't even allowed to talk if she wasn't on stage. Like it was really bad. So I was thinking like, oh, either something even worse is wrong with Mia, or like they came to their senses or something. But yeah, they do typically push people really, really hard to keep going.
I mean, this is the thing, right? This is the horrible thing about how they never specify why somebody is out. They either say, oh, it was an injury, or, oh, their physical health condition is poor.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
what is that? What does that mean?
It's
really alarming. Like, it could be that they just have a bad cold, or it could be that they've just, whatever has happened to them.
Yeah.
But I'm also, I don't know, it also kind of makes me think that maybe, just maybe 2018 is the year the company starts taking slightly better care of everyone.
I sure hope so.
Because, I mean, same with like the typhoons we've been having, right? Mm-hmm. It's the first time in a bajillion years that a show has actually been cancelled.
Yeah, and even like
twice.
Recently, I was there in June of this year for the Osaka earthquake.
Yeah.
When they did not cancel the show despite 0 trains being functional, and there were like 11 people in the audience for it was Gaisenmon and Kado Benito. And they were just like, well, let's perform for those 11 people.
And you all have to stay in your exact same seat. You can't come closer.
Oh my god.
Right? But then, so there was... Yeah, those shows were cancelled because of the typhoon, and then, like, Miyadori was allowed to have 3 days off. Maybe it means they care more. We just don't know.
I hope so. I hope there was some kind of meeting that they were like, okay, guys, this is ridiculous. Because also right before that was the whole travesty with Hanagumi and Hakataza. Where they had to... they canceled the scene in the review where they come into the audience because so many people in the cast were sick. They did not want to infect the audience. I think, was that the explanation they put on the... All I remember is they explained on the website that, like, because of health reasons, they canceled just that scene. And it's like, well, if you're that worried about, like, spreading disease to the audience from that range, maybe they shouldn't be on stage spreading disease to each other.
And I feel like, if anything, that audience would have happily received those germs.
Right. It's just the way they do things is weird sometimes. Like, I don't know. The same thing now with, like, Hoshikaze Madoka is out for one scene in the finale of Da Vinci. And I assume she still is because they haven't announced anything different since Shonichi.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, cool, I'm glad that they're taking care of her health, but it's like, if she can do literally everything else, it's also kind of weird that you didn't just like change the choreography for that scene until she feels better or something. They just make weird choices sometimes.
I mean, it's absolute, like, with that, it's not hard facts that I know, but somebody told me that she hurt her foot or her ankle or her leg or something to a degree that is not stopping her from doing anything, but they just wanted to take her out from that one scene to avoid it becoming worse.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense, and I think it's great that they're doing that. I figured it was something like that, like she had a minor injury and there was like a lift or something like that.
Exactly. You're totally right though, like, why can't they just not do that?
Because she's the top Musume Aku, like, I would think people would rather see the two of them on stage together doing literally whatever instead of just a scene where she's missing for some reason. I don't know, but yeah, maybe the director's like, no, my choreography has to be exactly this way.
And the kid who's filling in for her did a really nice job.
She's a wonderful person. Yumeshiro Aya. She is also probably going places.
Yeah, she seems to be going places, doesn't she?
Yeah.
No, she did a really nice job. She was really pretty.
Awesome. Okay. That's pretty much my entire knowledge database on Understudies. Do you have any final thoughts?
My final thoughts are, let's hope the understudies are not needed.
Please.
Ever. Please. It's so stressful.
Yeah.
Tsukigumi is amazing. Like, these actresses are amazing. They do such a good job. I feel like I was privileged in my life to watch Reiko as France.
Oh, I wish I could see it.
And
Even
that's
just like as the news. I wish they had filmed that day to like only put on the news. I'm not even asking for a video because I understand that's like weird, but it's news. It'd be cool if they put it on their news.
It was the worst. It was the worst thing because, like, you know, after, like, France and Elisabeth have sung Arashimo Kowaku Anai, right?
Yeah.
And they are on the one side, the one end of the ginkyo, right? Like, doing their kiss or whatever. And then Lucchini comes in from the opposite side, right? From the opposite side of the wings. And Tamakichi's in the middle doing her thing or whatever. I wasn't particularly watching. And then, like, there was Reiko and Chappie embracing each other on one side, and then Kazuma Yuno doing her thing on the other side. And I was not physically able to split my eyes to watch both at the same time.
Yeah.
It was the worst thing ever. So for that reason alone, for that one scene alone, I wish that a recording exists.
Yeah. We all do. Okay.
Yes.
Well, everybody did what sounds like an amazing job, and that makes me very happy because I'm sure they were dying on the inside.
Yeah, I think they were dying. I think it must have been a really, really stressful thing. Like, only speaking from my experience, but like my actress cancelled Iride for over a week because of it. So I think they were probably really stressed out, but you wouldn't know it from watching them. Which
because
is why
they're amazing.
Right?
They're amazing. I love them so much.
I love them. I love them too.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience.
Thank you for letting me talk about my experience.
At least we will have this much of it immortalized on the internet. If they won't give us any news. So.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you for listening. And if you guys have any experiences with understudies, please write them in the comments on the blog because we would love to hear them. And otherwise, we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Many thanks to Michael B. and the Arcanum String Quartet for their wonderful arrangement of Sumire no Hana Sakugoro. And thank you, listeners, for enjoying our podcast.